Krishna Productions presents a narration of the book Teachings of Lord Kapila, Son of Devahuti. It was written by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. In this context, the word Acharya means a person who is perfected in God consciousness and who teaches others, both by precept and example, how to perfect themselves. The book was published by the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust of Los Angeles, California in 1977, and all rights are reserved by it. And now I, Amala Bhakta Das, the narrator, offer my respectful obeisances at the lotus feet of my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, who is very dear to Lord Krishna, having taken shelter of his lotus feet. He is kindly preaching the message of Lord Chaitanya and delivering persons all over the world from the clutches of impersonalism and voidism by his books, recordings, and devotees. I pray that His Divine Grace may bestow His special mercy on me so that I may recite His illuminating words in such a way that whoever hears them may be inspired to want to know and love the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna and thereby become eternally engaged in His transcendental devotional service. And now I begin the narration of Teachings of Lord Kapila, Son of Devahuti, starting with the Foreword. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Kapila Muni, a renowned sage of antiquity, is the author of the philosophical system known as Sankhya, which forms an important part of India's ancient philosophical heritage. Sankhya is both a system of metaphysics dealing with the elemental principles of the physical universe and a system of spiritual knowledge with its own methodology culminating in full consciousness of the Supreme Absolute. Kapila, however, is not an ordinary philosopher or sage. According to Vedic tradition, the tradition of India's ancient scriptural literature, he himself is an avatar or incarnation of the Supreme Absolute Truth. Kapila's teachings are originally inscribed in the Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavat Purana, one of the most important scriptural documents of Vedic theism. Within the Bhagavatam, Kapila's teachings comprise chapters 25 through 33 of the third canto. This book, Teachings of Lord Kapila, the Son of Devahuti, is based on a unique series of lectures presented in Bombay, India, in the spring of 1974 by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. In this series, Srila Prabhupada spoke from the 25th chapter, which contains the beginning of Lord Kapila's teachings. Srila Prabhupada is the author of a celebrated multi-volume translation and commentary on the entire text of the Bhagavatam, and at the time of the Kapila lectures, he had already completed his written commentary on the section of the Bhagavatam dealing with Kapila Dev's teachings. In these special lectures, however, Srila Prabhupada went into significantly greater detail in elucidating the verses and shed an even broader light upon these fascinating teachings. The text begins with the words of Shonaka, the foremost of the sages of Naimisharanya, the vastly learned sages to whom Srimad Bhagavatam was originally spoken some thousands of years ago. The sages have already heard about Lord Kapila Dev from Sutta Goswami, an exalted spiritual master, and it is clear from Shonaka's words that they accept Kapila Muni as being an incarnation of the Lord himself, and as therefore being the highest authority on yoga and transcendental knowledge. In recounting the history of Lord Kapila, Sutta Goswami, in accordance with Vedic principles for presenting spiritual knowledge, refers to discourse by great spiritual masters who have previously discussed the same subject. In this case, Sutta Goswami refers to a discussion between Vidura and the great sage Maitreya, who was a friend of Vyasadeva, the original compiler of the Vedic literature. As Sutta Goswami has already described, Lord Kapila appeared in this world as the son of Kardama Muni, a master of mystic yoga, and his wife Devahuti. Both Kardama Muni and Devahuti were aware of the divinity of their son. Indeed, even before Kapila's birth, Lord Brahma himself, the chief created person in this universe, had appeared before Devahuti and revealed to her that her son was to be an incarnation of the Supreme Lord, and that this incarnation would enlighten her with spiritual knowledge. According to the Vedic social system, a man with a grown-up son may accept the order of sannyas, thus renouncing all connections with his family and worldly life, and entrust his wife to the care of his son. Kardama Muni, of course, knew that his son was an incarnation of the Supreme Lord. Yet to honor this Vedic system and emphasize its importance, he too eventually accepted sannyas, entrusting his wife, Devahuti, to the care of his divine son, Kapila Dev. Therefore, as Sutta Goswami begins to answer Shonaka's request to hear further about Lord Kapila Dev, the sages have already been informed of how Kardama Muni departed for the forest, leaving Kapila Dev behind with Devahuti. After Kardama Muni's departure, Devahuti, remembering the prophetic words of Lord Brahma, approaches her divine son and humbly expresses her desire for spiritual enlightenment. She says, "My lord, I have fallen into the abyss of ignorance. Your lordship is my only means of getting out of this darkest region of ignorance, because you are my transcendental I, which, by your mercy only, I have attained after many, many births. Now be pleased, my lord, to dispel my great delusion. You are the axe which can cut the tree of material existence. I therefore offer my obeisances to you, who are the greatest of all transcendentalists, and I inquire from you as to the relationship between man and woman, and between spirit and matter." This is from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 25, verses 7 through 11. Pleased by his mother's pure desire for spiritual enlightenment, and feeling great compassion for her, Kapila begins to speak on the Sankhya philosophy. Now, what is Sankhya? Insofar as Sankhya deals with the elemental categories or principles of the physical universe, Sankhya is what Western scholars generally refer to as metaphysics. The term Sankhya literally means to count. This name is used because Sankhya philosophy enumerates principles of cosmic evolution by rational analysis. The etymological meaning of the word Sankhya is that which explains very lucidly by analysis of material elements. Philosophically, this term is used because the Sankhya system expounds analytical knowledge that enables one to distinguish between matter and spirit. This understanding culminates in bhakti, devotion for and service to the Supreme. It may be said, therefore, that Sankhya and Bhakti form two aspects of the same process, Bhakti being the ultimate goal or ultimate aspect of Sankhya. It is interesting to note at this point that long after Lord Kapila's descent, an imitation Kapila appeared on the Indian subcontinent and propounded a non-theistic Sankhya. That which is generally studied as Sankhya in the contemporary academic context is actually this later non-theistic, materialistic Sankhya. The Sankhya philosophy propounded by the original Kapila is practically unknown in the West. Teachings of Lord Kapila, the son of Devahuti, along with Srila Prabhupada's complete commentary on Kapila's Sankhya in his edition of Srimad Bhagavatam, is probably the first major exposition in the English language on the original theistic Sankhya. It should therefore be of considerable interest to scholars in this field. Because the basic principle and the ultimate goal of Lord Kapila Dev's Sankhya philosophy is bhakti, this is the subject with which Lord Kapila Dev begins his instructions to Devahuti. Consequently, because this volume, Teachings of Lord Kapila, the son of Devahuti, is Srila Prabhupada's commentary on the beginning of Lord Kapila's teachings, it is chiefly concerned with the science of bhakti yoga, the process of linking with God. Yoga means linking through bhakti or devotion. As the actual history begins, Devahuti approaches her son Kapila and with deep humility expresses her sincere desire for spiritual enlightenment. In response, Lord Kapila delineates the path of the transcendentalists who are interested in self-realization. Concisely summarizing the actual process of self-realization, Kapila defines consciousness in both the conditioned and liberated states. He describes the psychology of pure consciousness, delineates the symptoms and characteristics of a sadhu, or holy person, and stresses the importance of sadhu sangha, association with those who are saintly. Kapila Dev then explains that liberation is merely a stage preliminary to the attainment of bhakti, and that one who attains bhakti automatically achieves liberation. One who engages in bhakti, devotional yoga, automatically transcends material desires and ultimately crosses beyond birth and death. According to later descriptions in Srimad Bhagavatam, Devahuti ultimately attains full enlightenment in transcendental knowledge by hearing and understanding the sublime philosophical teachings of her great son. This is signed by the publishers.